Good evening, everybody. It's Kentario, and I'm back again with Christ and comic books. So, we're coming through with doing Death Note Volume 4, Part 2, and what we're looking at is continuing from with Misa introducing herself to Light and demonstrating her loyalty to him. So, at the point in which we left off, they were embracing each other, and the illustration in that moment shows with them hugging Amane is facing towards the Shinigami, so those of the spiritual realm can actually see her expression. They can see how genuine that hug is for her, but they don't see the look on Light's face, which is very dark and a menacing look. I highly recommend you look that up. Volume 4 is where that imagery can be found. That's what's powerful about these illustrations, too. Again, speaks to the purpose of this entire channel, because seeing how that expression illustrates the darkness of the divinity that Light is trying to take on really speaks to it having a negative impact more so than the positive impact that he's thinking is going to have. And that level of abuse of power, which I think is very important to acknowledge as well. So as that story continues on in Volume 4, you'll actually notice how Light is still pushing to get more information as to what she's done, how much trust he can actually place on her. Will she instantly be willing to kind of turn her back? So there's two things I want to identify with them disagreeing in this instance. Of course, the disagreement stems from him thinking, hey, I'll be in a relationship with you, but I won't be in a relationship with you publicly. I'll be having other girls, I'll have other relationships, and there's a reason for that. Of course, we know where Light's mind is going with this, but her being a girl in love with him, she's not accepting of that. So that causes them to disagree a little bit. So one aspect to that is in him, one, grilling her about the loyalty, and two, him being so open about, we'll be together, but we won't be together, and really challenging her emotionally, them is showing him, how much does she care about me to the extent of I can control the situation, or is she going to be so reckless to where she'll, kill me off? That's his biggest concern. Now, there is an instance where when they're discussing the other women, that she identifies that if you start dating other girls, I will kill them. Not kill him, but I'll kill them. Now, something that too is, as the argument goes back and forth, she's not down for this, she doesn't like this, I don't want to do it this way, I need to be able to have a relationship with you, this, that, and the third. He gets to the point where he tells her, he's like, look, well, I will kill you. Now, I want to pause there for a moment, and him saying that he would kill her, is this speaks to the dynamic of the difference between the two of them. Her love for him is to where she would kill anyone else but him for him. His fake love for her and appreciation for her would be, because I'm so committed to what I'm going to do and focused on self and growing self, I'm willing to kill you to keep this going. Now, that shifts completely after that, of course, because the person that interjects in here is Rem, who is the Shinigami for Misa Amane. Now, she expresses, as far as I understand, Rem is a female. So that's something that I would like your feedback on. Is Rem a female Shinigami or a male Shinigami? That's something I need to identify. I think it was female. But Rem demonstrates that she will kill Light if Light kills Misa. Or if Rem even suspects that Light is planning to kill Misa, then he will kill off Light to ensure, man, I'm going back and forth between he and she, but she will ensure that the life that was sacrificed by the Shinigami that extended Misa Amane's will be maintained to the best of Rem's ability. So Rem is willing to do that, right? So that's something that is very important to recognize, again, to demonstrate the difference between the humanity and the character of Misa Amane versus, and keeping this in mind, the humanity and character of Light Yagami. So, because he's, like I said, he's willing to kill her off, but she's not willing to kill him, but at least willing to kill everyone else but him. So the level of love that she has and admiration that she has for him is that high. So in pressing forward with this, she ends up going home and things like that. That part's over. Light, now, just to keep in mind too, I forgot to mention this. As they're having a discussion, Light sets ground rules for it. You need to send in this tape. If you still have the fingerprints of the other person that you've been using to hide your fingerprints, you need to use that so that you can send another message saying that you've taken to heart what the police have said, that you're not going to seek out Kira, but you're going to do things to earn Kira's appreciation, right? So with that having been said, that tape was sent out. Light goes to check in with the police force. That tape's been sent in. Now, of course, Light is hoping this is going to cause things to subside so that eyes aren't going to be looking for and trying to seek out Misa Amane as hard as they were before. But the outcome of this has increased their suspicions and their concerns, primarily with L, because the response is so out of character for second Kira. L actually suspects that this means, from this tape that was sent in, that the second Kira has touched base with the first Kira. Now, several things can be played out from this. This could mean that L could feel his life is threatened. Of course, he may not even go on live TV anymore. There's several aspects to this. Of course, Light tries to speak to that, to delve out the concerns that L may have, to increase any suspicion on Light, but rather reduce them. So that kind of makes things a bit touchy and a bit complicated. That's something very important to keep in mind. So as he goes to leave from, seeing how everything played out with that, he goes home, and in going home, he ends up seeing Misa Amane. Misa Amane pops up because she looks forward to seeing him, and this is just the next day. She looks forward to seeing him. She comes over, and in this instance, of course, Light is now being stalked. Now, what's funny about this, I would like to acknowledge, is Light wasn't being followed the first time, but now Light has been followed since the second time. On a separate paneling, you can see that L is planning for, I need you to keep eyes on Light. We need to be watching his movements because we need to know in case he might be meeting up with second Kira. L also started watching the tapes from those days when they were doing the stakeouts in those locations where there was some suspected, imagery listed in the notebook that was the diary that was sent out in our last video, part 1. I'll make sure that part 1 is linked here. So with what was being sent out, they have decided that they're going to watch Light. Light now in this moment is being watched as Misa Amane pops up. Now, earlier in the day, you could see that Light was in school and was speaking with the top female in the class, which her name was Takada. And of course, they were developing a relationship. So the spy had noticed their relationship, but now he's on his way home. He notices their relationship, his relationship with Misa Amane. Now, to go ahead and total this out, he has 4 girls that he's talking to in this instance. We can suspect, okay, he's doing Playboy stuff as just a regular observer, but if we want to take it up a notch, him being Kira, this is to reduce suspicion. So that's why he's taking this route. This keeps him looking like a normal teenager. Now, this does, in one sense, somewhat help when it comes with Misa Amane popping in the picture, because it's like, okay, he's keeping up the trade. He's keeping up his little game of the 4 girls, right? So that's where that could be simplified, but it can increase the coverage that he needs when it comes to speaking with Misa Amane. So she comes over again, and it's late at night. She's looking to really focus more so on the relationship between her and him, rather than focus on, hey, what are we going to do to continue to clean up the world? Now, there's 2 things to that, right? The one thing is, with her being just genuinely infatuated with him, this shows that dedication, yes, but she's not focused on the cleaning up the world part that Kira, aka Light, is actually being focused on. That's his main focus. Now, there's something that I'm going to get into here later because of how important this is, but just to acknowledge that she's really just focused on this relationship. Now, Light is still trying to get her to, hey, I need you to switch your focus. I need you to focus on the job at hand. I need you to try to stay back. We can't be socializing like this. We can't be seen together like this. So let's come up with a plan on how we can make this relationship work. So one of the things is they get to a point where they're discussing telephones. So she has multiple phones. So instead of using his, he'll be using the multiple phone. This is very important to keep in mind. So he gets one of her phones and she has that other phone. Now they can keep in contact with each other, right? So that somewhat is good. So they end their conversation here with Rem being willing so that it can help Misa Amane. She is willing to kill L for Light. Light proposes this. Can you kill him for me? Just to see if it'll work. Now, in this moment, you see Light playing up the emotions of Misa Amane. He is embracing her. He's coddling her in emotional moments. Now, the thing about that is you don't see the eye contact there. You don't see that being illustrated in those moments. So it shows how ingenuine he is when he's demonstrating these feelings. Again, he's really just focused on himself. So what happens in that is he proposes that, hey, get Rem to do it. You're not going to be able to see him. You're not going to be able to get close to him. So let's plan for your Shinigami then to be able to get that close and to kill off L for us. And Rem is okay with it. Rem is only okay with it, however, to fulfill the desires of Misa Amane, is so that she can have Light all to herself, right? Because Light plays on that. Light's like, you want me to yourself. You want to be able to spend all this time together. You want to be able to get close. This is what needs to happen. L needs to die. these suspicions on me needs to end. All of these eyes watching me, this needs to stop. Otherwise, we can't have the relationship we want. So Misa goes, yes, I do wish, please, Rem, kill off L. So Rem is in agreement. Now, Light is getting a little bit excited about this because now he can end his enemy. So he's trying to plan around that, but he otherwise goes ahead and sends Misa home. Misa is leaving at this time, and that's the end of that. So moving on, one thing that happened after Light checked in with the other detectives is he, and this is what's important, he expressed a level of friendship between him and L. Now, what I mean by that is in them communicating and discussing what took place with the new tape that was sent out by Second Kira, L expressed that he sees Light as his first true friend. Now, the reaction that caused from Light was one of shock. Here's the reason I want to look at that real quick, and we're going to try and tie this up in the next time. The reason I want to focus on that real quick is because what's so important about this is with him reacting that way, it shows that the genuineness of, one, L seeing valued friendship between him and Light is something that was triggered in him, that touched him humanely. Because one aspect of this is people really just seeking to be friends with Light because of who he is, right? That's something that doesn't always happen. People either look up to him or people feel threatened by him normally, so he can't have those relationships with other people. That's why, as we've always seen him, he kind of looks down on everyone because people always come to him at this better than everyone else person anyway. So he's always felt like that. Even from his parents, he's always felt like that. I'm the top of the class, parents, so you don't have to question me about what I'm doing in school, how I'm doing in school. You know I'm doing good, right? He has that relationship with L from one standpoint because they're equal in some sense. Their knowledge is the same, their skill sets are the same, so they speak on that equal level. Light even playing on, man, yeah, I do miss you at school. I hope we get to play tennis again sometime. Now, we can definitely see that as being fake, but in another sense, we can see that Light genuinely has met someone that can touch him in that way, touch him on a human side, because of how related they actually are. Now, that really stems again back to Misa Amane, how he says, I can't fall in love with this girl. Now, that means with the genuineness and the devotion, and her not only being devoted from a, he looks cute side, but being devoted in knowing what he's been doing, knowing how he has been operating, and the impact of that on her, that level of love and admiration is what's touching his heart and what he's having to fight against. And that's what makes their relationship, in that standpoint, seem real. Okay, now I'm going to hurry up and end how this book ended, and then we're going to get into, some of the biblical aspects of what's happening in this moment. So let's stem forward here. He ends up going to school, right? And in going to school, guess who pops up? L. L takes seriously, one, the statement that Light made the prior day about, hey, I haven't seen you in school, it'd be good to see you again. But the other aspect to that is he's really baffled by what's going on, and he's getting overwhelmed with determining whether or not Light is actually Kira or not, because he's the only suspect he has on the plate. Of course, his percentage of observing him is genuinely down, but what women call that intuition for him is what's really flaring up, and he can't help but suspect that Light is actually Kira. So he shows up at the school, he's building this relationship, but the thing about it is, with Rem being prepared to be the one to go ahead and kill him off, and then being able to manage that properly now, him popping up kind of intervenes with that, because if Light goes to kill him in any short period of time, that's going to increase the suspicion on Light rather than reduce it. So Light's having to play it carefully, one, in determining the identity of L and when's a good time to do that, and two, knowing how long do I need to go off before I can actually kill him. Now, something changes here. What changes is that Misa Amane pops up at the school. Now, that has a positive and negative effect, because in one sense, now she can see who L is. The negative effect is L is meeting directly with Second Kira without 100% knowing that he's meeting with Second Kira. Now, something bad happens here. A couple of bad things happen here. One, L demonstrates that, I'm intrigued by this being the model that she actually is, because she's a low-tier teen model in magazines, and L is actually aware of that. Now, that could be because they've already been reporting to them about Misa Amane being one of the 4 women that he's been that he's been with. So, of course, L already did his research to be prepared in case he ever did encounter this person. Now, that also goes back around to also Misa Amane hears the name of Ryuzaki Ryuga for his public name while he's at school, and she's puzzled by it. Now, of course, being like we identified several videos ago, They were puzzled by it because that's a pop star's name. So for him to have that name would be shocking. But for the girlfriend to react that way, that actually amps up suspicion. So now Light is in a bit of a panic that she reacted that way, and he's trying to, hey, yeah, sounds like the pop star, right? Kind of shift the thought process. Don't be thinking that this is real about his actual name that you can see. Think about it being this, that, and the third. Like, think about it as him as the pop star. So that's the focus that they're trying to shift to, right? But what this leads to is, okay, people start gathering around them. Everyone starts noting she's a pop star. She gets pulled off to go do her shoot that she's been in the area to need to do anyway. Now, what happens here is, and this is funny, this is really funny, Elle and Light go separate ways because Light needs to go and call her. He wants to go and call her so that he can figure out the identity. Now, what happens is when he goes to call on the other phone, because he has a separate phone than his actual phone, which Elle is aware of already, because Elle is Elle, he makes the call, and guess who answers the phone? It's Elle, and Elle is not even 10 feet away from Light. And so he's like, that's very funny. You took her phone. You need to give that back. That's her phone, right? So in that instance, he's perfect. Now, what happened with that? I hate to acknowledge this, but it's funny. So when everyone was gathered around and was coming to fan over Misa Amane, she had an instance where it's like, who touched my butt? And you can see with the way it was illustrated, a quick move of Ryuzaki to put his hand behind his back. We was like, man, he's a pervert. I didn't think he'd touch a girl's butt. What he did in that moment was he took a phone. So that is what was so hilarious about that. He's like making moves that Light is not prepared for. And he's doing things that we as the audience weren't prepared for him to do. So he takes the phone back. And then in the same instance, Elle gets a call. Misa Amane has been taken into custody under suspicion of being second Kira. They've checked her home. They've checked her stuff. Several pieces of evidence lead to her being suspected. Now, Light is made aware of this. Light is in shock. Light doesn't know what to think or do in this situation, so he goes home. She's being interrogated, and she has been locked up for about 3 or 4 days at this time. And she starts to plead for her to be killed. Now, in her pleading, she's not directly speaking with the people watching her, which is Elle, which is Watari, who is the older guy who we identified, and the other detectives working with Elle. They're seeing her condition. They're seeing her freaking out, and they're thinking it's the hysteria from not being able to have any water for the past 3 days. But in all actuality, she's pleading in the midst of the lack of water to the Shinigami to go ahead and please just kill her because she can't handle this. She's not going to break for Light. She's not going to reveal anything on Light, but she does want to end this because she's tired of the suffering also. So instead of that happening, however, the Shinigami Rem actually offers to take the Deathnote and takes the Deathnote so that she loses her memories of Kira, but because she'll keep her love for Light, that's why Misa Amane was willing to agree to it. So she takes the book, she passes out, Rem goes to Light, and in the midst of Light thinking of what to do, Rem brings this news to Light. Now this, no pun intended, he brings this news to Light, Yagami. So with that taking place, they come up with a plan together to make it to where not only with her memory being lost, Light loses his memory. Light hides his original book, but takes on Rem's book. That way he has some link to the Death Notes, right? So he comes up with a plan to make sure that they can save Misa Amane, because Rem tells him, all right, so I'm going to work with you to kill Elle. But this is what I need for you to do. I need for you to free Misa or I will kill you. Because Rem, again, is all for supporting Misa. So if Misa can't be delivered out of this bondage situation, then it's going to kill Light. So Light turns himself in. Light plays it off as, of course, his memory is lost. Plays it off as, I suspect that I am Kira. That's the words he's playing with. Now, this is confusing Ryuzaki. He doesn't know how to approach this now. Because in Ryuzaki's head, you are Kira. There's no maybe, there's no lost memory, there is you are. So what game are you really playing here? What's the big picture is what he's trying to figure out. But he comes to the conclusion that we're going to take Light into custody. So not only is Misa Amane in custody, but Kira has turned himself as well for as long as Elle needs him to reduce the suspicion. Alright, that's the end of Volume 4. Now the thing I want to talk about is the relationship between us and our God. Okay, so from this standpoint, because remember my observation, which I haven't got much feedback on, but my observation of who Light is in this storyline is the image of God that people believe he needs to be. right? This is how God's supposed to be. He's supposed to be a God that if there's evil, kill it, end it, stop it. True evil needs to be stopped. And this is the way that man sees the true God needs to be. And I'm speaking natural mindset thoughts, not necessarily knowing the Bible and going off of those things. I'm not speaking from that standpoint. I'm speaking from the natural man's, observation of what kind of God he needs to be. So light represents that. Now, the thing about light representing that is there's an aspect to the biblical God that is being played on towards light, which is what is it to love the true and living God? So Misa Amane is demonstrating that love for the true and living God. Now, also with El being in there, El is being that friend that we see Christ as being also. So there's that kind of play between Misa Amane and El. So with that, what is our relationship to God? Now, if we're looking at it from the standpoint of light's relationship, light doesn't know how to take that because any idol or deity like that isn't comprehended in that way from a human to God perspective. There is not a clear-cut illustration talked about, discussed, understanding that, man, we have a love for this God that we serve and who has done all of these things for us. If this is a very heavy judgmental God on evil, how will we love him, right? That's something that's very important there. The bigger part about it is when we're looking at light from that aspect is light doesn't know what to do with it. Because we see light isn't planning to do right by the love that Misa Amane offers. And he's doing everything he can so that he can actually abuse it rather than properly respond to it or bless her in response to it. But he's only giving her temporary satisfaction, a small embrace, a kiss on the lips that's going to make her heart fan. Here, let me give you your number. All of this is temporary satisfactions that this false God wouldn't be able to demonstrate to her so that she truly knows that she is loved at the level that a true God would love her. And then also playing on the friendship aspect, of course, light is actually looking to kill El, but even then, when El demonstrates that friendship aspect, it's like, how do I respond to that? So that's something that's very serious. I think that's very important to recognize is that if you want the God if the world gets the God they're asking for, right? If the world were to get the God they're asking for, they wouldn't get the love that human beings would need in response to having a God that they would be seeking out. They wouldn't know how that God needs to love them. They wouldn't know how that God needs to care for them. They wouldn't know how that God needs to bless them, provide for them, and do right by them, and even more so, the entire world. So that's something so important. And one instance I want to use is how Jesus was speaking with Peter, because I think that demonstrates the love of God on a level that is deeper and more widespread, because there's a deepness to the love of God that I could talk for hours on, and I'm already at 22 minutes. I don't want to be any longer. So the love here, okay, the Bible speaks of how when Jesus was speaking with Peter, I believe that would be in the book of Luke or John. It'd be coming up at the end of the chapter, the last chapter in that book. And what happens is Jesus asks Peter, because this is an instance where we're seeking, what's your love like for the God? What's your love like for Christ? What's your love like for, for the Almighty? So what is that love like, right? And if we're talking about that love, the thing I want to identify is when Jesus was speaking to Peter, Jesus asked him, do you love me? Peter said yes. And Jesus' response to that statement was, well, feed my sheep. He asked him that 3 times. Do you love me? Peter says, yes, then feed my sheep. So what does that mean to feed the sheep? That would be an important question. That's a question us as children of God need to ask. That's a question that even the world needs to ask if they want to know what it means to even have a relationship with God, right? And what that means is, if you love me, then do right by my children. If you love me, then do right by my people. If you love me, then do right by those that are lost. Do what needs to be done to ensure their salvation. Because this stems to something that's also very important, but we won't go there deeply, is when he says, then feed, if he says, greater works shall ye do. So when he was rising up into heaven, he told the disciples that there will be greater works that they shall do. So what that speaks to in one simple instance is Jesus primarily focused on ministering to the Jews. But the disciples will be able to now focus on ministering to people across several different nations. Now, in 2 aspects, and we're going to end here, Peter is focused primarily on Jews. So with him telling him to feed my sheep, he's trying to help him build that mentality of I need to be focused on the rest of the world and not just the Jews. But on another level, that's how we need to be as people, is focused on what can we do for those in the rest of the world. Now, we don't need to burn ourselves out to do that, but we need to be working on developing ourselves, which is what's a part of love, growing ourselves to a place where we can be dependable, where we can be a help, where we can be a service. And that's what it means to be someone that not only loves God, but loves the people of God. And the people of God are his sheep. And that's who we're called to be. Thank you guys. I appreciate you checking this out. I know this is a long one and I sincerely apologize. But please make sure you hit that subscribe button, notifications, as well as a like or dislike, and leave a comment. Thank you. Have a blessed one.